Welcome back to the United PubCast for your end of season awards, your 3-2-1 votes and player of the season announcement. Interesting one because this should be a positive stream and I think it will be in terms of looking back at some highlights. It has been a good season, as I've always alluded to, in regards to obvious disappointments along the way. There has been a lot to look forward to and a lot to enjoy. So it is a positive stream, but in terms of losing a cup final and a few days out from Manchester City completing the treble, there's obviously a little bit of a down feeling. So I will do my best to keep the spirits as high as I can. Larry's unfortunately not with us, but I think he's joining us at the pub over the next couple of days, which will throw out a little bit of a sort of maybe a Friday night pint, etc. Sort of a bit of probably more of a sort of detailed season review, I should say. I think this one will look at more so just the incidents, best players, highlights, lowlights, etc. But I'm looking forward to meeting up with Larry at the pub and having a beer and discussing the season at length, because my God, it was a big one, and a lot to get through. But for anyone who is new to the podcast, we do have our podcast on your podcast app, so your SoundClouds, iTunes, Spotify, etc. That is where the podcast did originate, and there has been a slight change to that. If you follow us on social media, you would have seen that it started off as just the podcast. So that's pretty much what it was, a weekly chat, and then obviously throughout COVID, we went across to YouTube. But it was hard to obviously manage both, then doing YouTube and then doing a podcast sort of thing. So what it sort of ended up becoming was every sort of review we did in terms of a match review or a big transfer show, we'll just download the audio off here and download that onto the podcast app, and that was available for people in their podcast apps. So what we're going to do now, that podcast app will be completely exclusive content. It's obviously 100% free, no sort of paid subscriptions at all, but in terms of it'll be completely different content to what we get on YouTube. So YouTube will obviously be match previews, transfer shows, match reviews, etc., and all around breaking news when we'll go live whenever. But the podcast app now will be in regards to just some your sort of more unique and sort of more random Manchester United topics. When we did start the podcast, we did topics in terms of looking back at a player's career. So we went and looked at Roy Keane's career or stuff like that. I just think in terms of some of the discussions we have, some of the best discussions we have probably aren't suitable. I think they're suitable for YouTube, but in regards to sort of gaining traction and getting people's interest, I think YouTube has a little bit of a younger audience compared to the podcast listeners. So I think in terms of that audio-based podcast only, it'll be those discussions, which I wouldn't say boring. Obviously, I find huge joy out of them, but in regards to, they're not Mbappe to United, and they're not Lisandro Martinez signs for Manchester United, those type of shows. It'll be a little bit more looking back at the history, interesting stories, etc., from fans around the world. And just whenever we're at the pub, I think next time whenever at the pub with a Man United fan, I'll put a phone down and we'll just have a chat, and I think go back to the origins of what the PubCast was. So if you do want to get involved with that, it doesn't have to be at the pub. It can be done online via Zoom, etc. So if ever you do want to get involved with that or have any topics, discussions or anything like that, do get involved and let us know, and you can definitely get involved. That would be great, but that is for another day. I think we'll probably release that on Tuesday morning, so that'll be Tuesday mornings in Sydney, Monday night in the UK, if you do follow us from the UK. But I'll say good day to Rob, obviously in the chat. Good to see you, mate. Obviously had a couple of beers on the weekend with him. And Chris, good to see you in the chat, has gone early with his 3-2-1s in regards to Martinez, Casemiro, and Rashford and Bruno. This is what we're thinking here, podcast best for the car on the drive home from work. So, I think that's also my idea, or Larry and I's thinking in regards to, we have obviously had this sort of push to YouTube, of course, but we do want to sort of go back to the roots and those sort of not old school discussions we used to have, but in regards to those more detailed and sort of more sort of nuanced conversations we had, where in YouTube it's so much of it's directed towards the breaking news in regards to this transfer or this match review sort of thing. In terms of Manchester United, for us, is so much more than that, so much behind the scenes, so many stories, so many sort of historic things to sort of go back and look at. So I'm definitely going to enjoy that, and hopefully you guys do as well. Box, good to see you, mate, and George as well. So in regards to this stream, I'll need obviously everyone's interaction in the live chat to keep this going and re-jog my memory, because anyone who does sort of follow this will know I have a great memory in terms of looking back in history in the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s. I can tell you who scored what goal on what game. In regards to recent memory, in regards to a season, I completely forget what happened. I forget who played here. I forget what the score was in these games. So I will need you to remind me in regards to some moments that did pop up in the season. So we'll look at sort of highlight of the season, low light of the season, disappointment of the season, like a specific moment, or maybe a player in terms of their time at United, maybe the most improved in regards to biggest surprise from a player this season in regards to look like they're down and out. I think everyone knows who I'm alluding to there. And also in the 3-2-1s, who you think, who you would give your 3-2-1 for, who do you think was the player of the season, but also who do you think was voted the player of the season. So anyone who is new to the podcast and doesn't know how we do that, the 3-2-1s after every game, win, lose or draw, after most losses, not the 7-0, etc., or the 4-0 at Brentford, but after most losses, draws, and of course the wins, we hand out 3-2-1, so 3 points for the best player, 2 points, and 1 point, so on. But it's not so much the best player in regards to the old-fashioned man of the match. It goes down to sort of each game can be sort of handed out in its own sort of isolated situation. In terms, there could be just an impact. It might be a 0-0 draw, and David De Gea touches the ball once, but it's a penalty save. Not that that happens too often, but you know what I mean? Just the biggest impact, or someone could come off the bench in the 92nd minute and score a match-winning goal. Obviously, they haven't been the best performer throughout the match, but that impact on the game was pivotal. So that is how we do hand out those 3-2-1. So I'll be interested in regards to that. It's not so much, I might not agree with the best player of the season, but in regards to impacts in over 90 minutes and on results, that is how we are handing these out. But Chris here, yeah, a good shout with Lisandro Martinez after the beating from the media in regards to a surprise for the season. I'll tend to agree with that, but then also I'll throw the question back to you. Was it a surprise in regards to us? And obviously, I don't think any of us had a great knowledge of Lisandro Martinez, but I think when Erik ten Hag signed him, we said, okay, this is why he wants him, and Erik ten Hag, we have full faith in him. It was a surprise to the media, but us Manchester United fans who had full faith in Erik ten Hag, now Lisandro Martinez has performed extremely well, so maybe the level of performance has been a bit of a surprise in regards to the transition from Ajax to Manchester United. But for us fans, I don't think it was as big a surprise as what he likes of Graham Souness, Jamie Carragher, obviously, and obviously the rest of rival fans on Twitter would have you believe at the start of the season. But Lisandro Martinez, let's start on surprise of the season, whether that be in a specific game or a specific player or situation around the club. I think my biggest one comes off the back of the World Cup, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He was out, and look, I've always liked Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but I was along the train of thought with everyone else that when Diogo Dalot was in form and playing very well, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka just simply wasn't involved at all. Well, wasn't even playing for the reserves. It just was completely frozen out. Now, who's obviously training, you would assume, with the first team, but completely frozen out. His career was done at Manchester United, and I said, yep, get rid of him. And not in a bad way, not that he wasn't good enough or anything. I just thought, okay, it's clearly not working under Erik ten Hag. He doesn't rate him. His career is done. And he has come in, and in terms of if you split the season in half, maybe a player of the season for the second half of the season, Wan-Bissaka might be a leading candidate for it. The way he turned that round, and not only perform well and turn it around in regards to the situation he found himself in, my biggest surprise is what he added to his game. I think why we're so confident in his career being over under Erik ten Hag was what Erik ten Hag was demanding of his fullback. It was the last thing Aaron Wan-Bissaka could do. Now, maybe we still have questions that he's maybe not fully suited to it, but it was definitely the last thing Aaron Wan-Bissaka would do. The last thing you want him to do is go into midfield and start playing football and be that inverted fullback. But Aaron Wan-Bissaka came in and improved his game. He added to his game. Not only that, but then performed at the highest level. So Aaron Wan-Bissaka's improvement, that for me, was probably the biggest surprise of the season in regards to our individuals. And that's only full credit to both the manager and the player. Rob here saying Martinez going through Salah, Sancho scoring to keep the season run. That was, well, in terms of the most important moment of the season, I have to go, that has to be close in regards to whether it be the specific incident of Lisandro Martinez or Mohamed Salah and setting the tone. But that game against Liverpool at the start of the season, if we didn't win that, just go back to the mood. After we lost to Brighton and after we lost to Brentford 4-0, and Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville March and Nick Carrington, and we're doing that interview with Erik ten Hag, questioning Lisandro Martinez and everything, the situation around Cristiano Ronaldo. Liverpool had also lost 2 games. Well, they hadn't lost 2 games, and they had a draw and a loss in the first 2 games, I believe. So it was a bottom-of-the-table clash at Old Trafford. But Liverpool was still off the back of only a couple of months before. They were so close to winning 4 trophies. So forget Liverpool, how we view them now after their bad season. Liverpool at the time, while on 2 losses, at the time were still title favourites, pretty much, with Manchester City. Going into that match at Old Trafford, if we lost that match to Liverpool, what would the reaction have been? Well, I don't think the season now, I had full faith in Erik ten Hag if he lost that match, of course. But even if we were to lose that game, I don't think we have the season we have. I don't think we go on to win the League Cup because I think the confidence is shot. I don't think we go on to finish 4th because Erik ten Hag would not have been sacked. But my God, where would it have gone? if we didn't get those 3 points, if Liverpool were the ones to give us our third loss of the season in that situation. And that was the day Casemiro signed, I believe. So maybe it was always going to turn around regardless. But I go back to that game 100%. And a bit of a trivia for you, I was watching in terms of trying to re-jog my memory of goals of the season. Jadon Sancho obviously got the big goal in that game to get things running. Anyone know who got the assist for the Jadon Sancho goal? Remind me in a few minutes if no one does get it in the chat, but it's a very surprising assist for that big Jadon Sancho goal. I'll go to Al first, and if anyone does remember, throw it in the chat. I'll test your knowledge. But Al saying United plays transition football. We don't have the players to play possession football. Erik ten Hag doesn't seem to want to play modern football. I think Erik ten Hag is using the tools at his disposal. I think in terms of when a new goalkeeper comes in time, whether that be short-term or long-term, I think that'll change the way we play. I think having a Frankie de Jong or that world-class midfielder, ball carrier and progressor next to Casemiro, that will change things. So I think Erik ten Hag is the epitome of a modern manager and definitely wants to. You have to look back at Ajax in terms of the way he wants his team to play. But, okay, if you got Fred McTominay, Christian Eriksen, who maybe doesn't have the physical capabilities, you don't really have a striker to play there. I think his hands are a little bit tired. Maybe even at fullback, he would say that it's not his preferred choice. So very interesting. Look, I tend to agree in regards to what we've seen this season, but I think if Erik ten Hag has every tool at his disposal, I think we do see a very modern manager. In regards to the assists here, box here, Ronaldo assist. It wasn't Ronaldo assist. Ronaldo was on the bench, and the camera straight away panned to Cristiano Ronaldo to see his reaction, and he was the first to celebrate at the time. And Eriksen was the assist, wasn't it? Or possibly Malacia. Eriksen had the assist with the pass into the person who had the assist. Anthony Elanga. Anthony Elanga started that game. Cut it back for Jadon Sancho. So there it is. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure if Anthony Elanga got a point for that in regards to 3-2-1s. I'll go through the full list. But that season turned on an Anthony Elanga assist. There you go. Funny old game is football. We'll have to discuss Anthony Elanga in another pod in regards to his situation, because in terms of assets, Rob shouting here, Elanga or Malacia, there was Anthony Elanga. So amazing step. It was a surprise. That's why I just thought I brought it up. I thought it was interesting. Almost a forgotten man. But in regards to transfers, if we want to get rid of someone, Anthony Elanga is definitely one of those people we could potentially sell. So we'll discuss him in great detail in a little bit. But obviously that was the surprise of the season, big moment of the season, low light of the season. Get your comments in. And after this, we'll turn it to the positives and we'll look at the Player of the Season awards. But low light of the season, I think obviously we can point to the 7-0. Of course. We can point to the FA Cup final defeat. Of course. For me, I probably have to go Brighton. No, not Brighton. Sorry, that time of the season. I'll probably have to go Brentford. Maybe that feeling. Look at this. Throw the 6-3 in there. Throw the West Ham defeat. All those defeats. Sure, I understand that there's so many lowlights, unfortunately, this season. The 4-0 against Brentford. I just think Sevilla. George bringing up Sevilla. Yep, I forgot about Sevilla. Throw that in there as well. Brentford for me. Just 4-0, and the way we're doing it. We're in the green kit, for God's sake. It was off the back of in the middle of a shocking transfer window. And I just think the feeling we had towards the players then, and no one doubted Erik ten Hag, but we doubted what was possible with this group of players. And I think that's where our doubt of Erik ten Hag was did come to fruition. It wasn't a personal thing on him. It was just his hands are tied. What is he going to do with his group of players? We're just off the back of the worst season in our history or Premier League history. And now we've gone out and lost the 2 first games of the season and lost them heavily and lost them convincingly. And I just think, and our rivals in terms of Liverpool and Manchester City were going from strength to strength at the time. So I think the mood, the feeling when we lost to 4-0, it was 4-0 at half time. Like Brentford took their foot off. It could have been 8-0. Like, I'm just saying it was so bad. And I think there were lowlights throughout the season in terms of getting smashed by Liverpool, Manchester City, losing a cup final, going out in Europe in terms of the way we did against Sevilla. Obviously many lowlights, but for me, Brentford was... I still feel it now, and I'm still a little bit angry in terms of maybe not completely forgiving some of the players for what I did see. But Brentford 4-0, I was almost in tears. I have to agree. Box here, the 7-0 Liverpool was not because of Liverpool, but because it was 0-0 at half time or at 40 minutes. We were only on top. The collapse was scary. Yeah, the 7-0 wasn't that bad. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Of course, it was horrible. But on another day, we had 3 big chances at 0-0. We could have been 3-0 up at halftime at Anfield, and we're talking about one of our greatest ever nights as Manchester United fans. We don't put the ball in the back of the net, and suddenly we're 7-0 down and having a far different discussion. So, I do share that weird feeling against Liverpool. But obviously, we've lost 6-3 to Manchester City as well. Phil Foden and Erling Haaland scoring hat-tricks, and also, what I would also throw into this in terms of the biggest disappointment of the season, and you could throw this into obviously the opposite of the 3-2-1s. And again, we can point this at the club, the player, the manager, whatever. I think it was everything that sort of combined together, of course. But I also do really, individuals do have to take responsibility. The biggest disappointment of the season for me, besides the 4-0 at Brentford, was Cristiano Ronaldo. And look, I love Cristiano Ronaldo, of course. The greatest player I've seen at Old Trafford. Well, Paul Scholes aside, in regards to talent, Cristiano Ronaldo is the best player I've seen at Old Trafford. And look, there's many circumstances and many reasons as to why the situation did evolve as it was, and Cristiano Ronaldo had reasons for doing so, and sort of we knew this the day he did come back. The day against Newcastle when he made his second debut, I think we all enjoyed it, we all celebrated, we all loved it. We all knew deep down it was going to end in unfortunate circumstances in a year or two's time. That did come to fruition, and the club holds responsibility, but obviously Ronaldo holds huge responsibility as well. And I just think in terms of if it was going to come to an end, I think Ronaldo could have done a better, well, he definitely could have done a better job in allowing that end to come to a far smoother conclusion, and he didn't do that. He obviously, and we sort of celebrated his selfishness throughout his career. It's what made Cristiano Ronaldo, so we can't sort of tell him to change, but his selfishness did leave a sour taste, and there was a shame because Manchester United are bigger than any individual, but in regards to business and football in the modern game, Cristiano Ronaldo, in terms of the name, is bigger than Manchester United in regards to the power and with what he was displaying and his influence. And it was a distraction. It needed to go. And look, he's still a legend in my eyes. He's still absolutely brilliant. But it was just a disappointing end to what should have been a great return. But we could sit here and say the return should never have happened. In regards to that, that was because of the Glazers, etc. We all celebrated, of course, but we all knew deep down it was the wrong thing. And my question to you in the chat would be, would you do it again? And the answer for me is yes. And that is stupid. That's wrong. I understand. But what would you have preferred? Would you have preferred to go through everything again in terms of that debut, the second debut against Newcastle and that homecoming, that all that excitement, or Ronaldo go to Manchester City and win a Premier League title at the Etihad? I would go through every emotion again in terms of even how it ended, to see that debut against Newcastle again and that sort of Ronaldo coming home. I'll take all that pain again over seeing him win a title at the Etihad. So it is a funny old game, as I said. But out here, Ronaldo was washed. He did us a favour by criticising the Glazers. Yeah, look, it'll be very interesting to look back and a lot of people said no. And look, the Glazers that find themselves in this financial situation far before Cristiano Ronaldo arrived. But in terms of the timeline of events, in terms of Ronaldo sort of doing that tell-all interview, then it wasn't long after that the Glazers sort of put the club up for sale. Very interesting in regards to that. I think that's a discussion for when someone writes a book in 10, 15, 20 years' time in terms of the impact of Cristiano Ronaldo and the Glazers' decision. It might be minimal or it might be extremely influential. Who knows? But very interesting in regards to the top. Which one came out first? Did the Glazer I think the Ronaldo interview happened first, then the Glazer statement was after that. But I think it was quite soon, maybe a week in between or somewhere, a couple of days from memory. Ronaldo was a sad affair, but I was glad we had him back. To be fair, gave us joy in the Ollie Rangnick season. Oh, look, you definitely just seen him in a red shirt, seen one or two. Well, he's obviously scored more than one or two. But seeing those goals again, seeing him in a red shirt, we all dreamt of that since the day he left for Real Madrid. We just said, just give us one game back at Old Trafford in a red shirt. And that game against who was that? Newcastle. As I said, I've probably got it here still. I haven't got it framed yet. I'll need to find a frame big enough. But I do have it here. That return there signed by Cristiano Ronaldo there. I'm just trying to find the right frame for it because look, it did end in tears. I wasn't happy with how it ended, but I'll remember the good memories, and that was a memory that was very special. So yeah, he's also saying here, Box, the Ronaldo affair, the unfair scrutiny of Maguire, the media jumping on Eric Ten Hag after Brentford, the Glazers selling. Mason, I haven't even mentioned Mason Greenwood. Technically, that happened last year, so maybe it's not this season. Greenwood impending situation. Sheikh versus Qatar has been a long season off the pitch. It'll be probably even longer one next season in regards to all these things sort of have to come into fruition. And Harry Maguire probably goes into the disappointment as well, and probably not through his performances or anything. Like some would say, okay, they weren't good enough, of course, but there wasn't enough performances to be disappointed over the course of the season in regards to he's simply frozen out. So the disappointment in regards to that story is probably more so seeing Manchester United's captain on the bench. But in regards to Harry Maguire's performances, okay, they weren't good enough, but there weren't simply too many performances to get angry at. I think that there was 3 or 4 times we really saw him sort of properly involved in the team for a prolonged period, and it's more so disappointing for Harry Maguire than us fans, in my opinion. So look, Harry Maguire, he'll obviously dominate a lot of the discussions in the coming weeks in regards to a transfer fee. It does look like Manchester United or the transfer market is sort of putting a value on him in and around £40 million, which, who you compare to what we paid for him, is obviously it's criminal to lose that money out on a player. But in regards to the situation both club and player find themselves in, I'd say that's about right. And I think clubs would pay that in the modern game. So if we can get $40 million for Harry Maguire, I think that is best for both parties. But will that eventuate? I'm not sure what the wages would be on top of that. Let's say he goes to a mid-table club, but let's say Aston Villa, obviously doing very well. What wages are they going to pay? They're going to pay $200,000 a week on top of a $40 million transfer fee. I'm not sure. Maybe they would. The game is changing when you do see what some of these clubs are spending. But I think Harry Maguire, for both player and club, and look, I like Harry Maguire, but it's best he goes. Definitely. Boxy with a shout in regards to, this one annoyed me. Leads 2-2 draw at home. Pissed me off. But what also gives me joy in regards to that is obviously Marcus Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho scoring at Ellen Road, taking 3 points off them, and Leeds were relegated. So we can take joy in contributing to Leeds relegation. And just one of our local lads, Marcus Rashford, sent them down to the championship, and fingers crossed we don't see him for a while. Maybe get him in a cup or something, 4th round of the cup or something, away at Ellen Road, and beat him again there. Adam here, $40 million for Maguire, not a chance in my opinion. The reason I think it is a chance, you just look at what other players go for. Like in terms of players you don't think are worth it, they go for that. And Harry Maguire, whatever we think of him, managers and the game in England do value him extremely high. And I just think in terms of what other players go for, Harry Maguire will be worth around $40 million. I think clubs will pay that. What club? I'm not sure. But clubs will, even from a marketing point of view, they won't sort of admit this, but having an England centre-back is huge for a stature of the club. And whatever he does, even if he plays one game a season, he'll start every game for England. So he'll always be England centre-back. So that is something clubs like, let's say it's a mid-table, or not even Aston Villa. Let's go a little bit further down. Let's say a Brentford. Okay, in terms of Brentford, could you imagine Brentford having England starting centre-back? Well, that'd be huge for a club like that. And I just think that would sort of maybe go into their thinking in regards to a transfer fee. But Harry Maguire discussion for another day. This is supposed to be a positive one. So here, Box here saying Lewis Dunk of Brighton has been quoted for $40 million. Maguire surely the same. Yeah, look, the money's crazy in terms of what we think of players worth in our mind. I still look at a big money signing, like a huge sign. A world-class player is $40 million, $50 million. Yeah, average plays 40 or 50 million now. Like it's just changed. Like look at Evan Ferguson. Evan Ferguson's quoted to Manchester United for you'd think around 60, 70 million pound. In my mind, Evan Ferguson, for what he is, young player coming through, is a £3 or £4 million signing. And that I highly value him. But in regards to that type of business, in my mind, still should be around that. But it's absolutely, the game has gone crazy. But in regards to 3-2-1s, 3-2-1s, as I alluded to at the start, in terms of how we rank out or how we give out our 3-2-1 votes at the start of the season, it has culminated after 38 games, or more than 38 games. It was played 60-something games in regards to that. So I'll go through some sort of honourable mentions in regards to some players who did get points that you probably aren't aware of. Tom Heaton got a point. What game that came in, I have no idea. You would assume it was the early rounds of the League Cup. I can't remember one or two games he came, or in the game that he did feature. It was FA Cup or League Cup. He came and collected a cross and did an early throw. And I just think it got us all excited. I think we gave him a point off the back of that. Cristiano Ronaldo has a point. I believe that probably would have come in the match-winning goal against Everton away at Goodison Park. It would have to be that one, I assume. Palestri has a point, but in terms of, as I said, in regards to maybe simply didn't play enough games, Harry Maguire only has 2 points, so that's the impact of the season. Harry Maguire, he only got 2 points, and I think they'll both at the start of the season, just in regards to 1 point in 2 different games. So you look at that, Manchester United's captain only having 2 points in regards to that's his contribution to the season. It shows how the season did go for Harry Maguire. Diogo Dalot only has 4 points. I said Diogo Dalot had a very good start to the season. Only 4 points. And we get into Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's far higher up the list. Aaron Wan-Bissaka had 17 points. So I just think I thought the season was quite even between the two, and I still believe it was. But in regards to an impact on results, Diogo Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, the difference is stark. And now this is not a scientific fact in regards to these points. But it is very interesting because I thought Diogo Dalot had a very good season. But if you look at the points, and again, this is not a fact in regards to this is our opinion post-match, sort of immediately post-match. But I'm very interested in regards to that. But some interesting shouts there. Casemiro here did get that assist. I think we went 1-0 down. I think we went 1-0 down early. I think Anthony got an equaliser. And then Ronaldo did get that goal. Probably, I don't think it was his last goal for Man United, but God, must have been close. I think Rob here saying Rashford for the 3-2-1s. In regards to the potential winner, I'll announce the potential winner soon. I'll go top 5. I'll bring up photos of the top 5, and we can discuss those individuals as we go. But Al here, we've always thought of this. How about negative points in some games? Maybe that's something we will do. Maybe after losses, people will be up for losing points. Maybe that's something we can introduce next season. But it is something we've been doing for a few years on the PubCast, and we haven't wavered from the structure. But maybe it is something Larry and I can discuss before we get into the top 5 goal of the season. I was talking to Rob on Saturday at the pub in regards to an interesting chat in regards to we forget the football played, but Anthony's first goal against Arsenal was obviously extremely good build-up in regards to, I think every player touched the ball in the build-up. I'm not sure, but very good football and obviously a good goal against Arsenal. It was obviously a standout. I think Anthony won. Did he win against Betis in regards to goal of the season, a left-foot curler? The Barcelona one stands out in regards to Anthony again. Obviously stepped up with big goals. Anthony away at Manchester City. So Anthony's running away with his own goal of the season competition. So Anthony's not short of a shout in regards to that. I'm trying to think of other ones in regards to goal of the season. Let me know in the comments because there wasn't that unbelievable goal. There wasn't that Rooney bicycle or Robin van Persie volley or so there wasn't that type of goal. So I think there were many good moments. Casemiro bicycle kick overhead only a few short weeks ago. Not goal of the season for me, but definitely worth a shout. Definitely a nice strike there. Actually, I'll tell you the one for me. Nottingham Forest away, Marcus Rashford went through. It was shocking defending, to be fair. So maybe not deserving of goal of the season in regards to the competition. But Marcus Rashford picked the ball up about 70 metres from goal on the left-hand side, closest to the camera, and went past. Probably only went past 2 or 3 players, to be fair, but carried the ball such a long way. And went past 1 or 2 players and slotted it in the near post. And that's one that at the time you think really was a brilliant goal, albeit shocking defending. But Marcus Rashford for me, and in terms of the amount of goals he scored, he definitely will feature in the 3-2-1s. But Rob here saying the Arsenal goal was a favourite. The reaction to that, obviously, our big money signing score against Arsenal, his debut was a good one as well. And the Barca goal for Anthony, 1 goal of the season. I thought it was Betis. But, 3-2-1s in regards to the top 5. I'll bring up each player and their points and photo. So on 23 points, any guesses for 5th place in the PubCast rankings? On, as I said, 23 points, 5th place is Christian Eriksen. You wouldn't think that in regards to the current perception around Eriksen and our feelings towards his suitability. But we do have to cast our mind back at the start of the season and the difference he was making in midfield. He was playing extremely well. There's no doubt about that. And he has done well for Manchester United. It was a free transfer, so it's not like we've spent 80 million on this player and we have sort of higher expectations. But Christian Eriksen, I think, is deserving of that now in terms of very interested in and around the discussion around Mason Mount. At the moment, is Mason Mount the upgrade on Christian Eriksen and Christian Eriksen becomes the squad player rather than someone you sort of rely on, potentially. But Christian Eriksen has had a good season. There's no doubt about that. It has petered out off the back of that injury, of course. And it did have a while out, as Rob says, they're 3 months out as well. But I think deserving of 5th place in regards to he has been very good. And the recency bias will tell us we're extremely frustrated with Christian Eriksen, and we can definitely have a genuine discussion in regards to his suitability to be relied upon for Manchester United reaching that next level. I think that's definitely a discussion. But all things considered, him coming in, I'm happy to give him 5th place in the PubCast Player of the Year awards. Now, 4th place as well. I thought would have been higher, but he's not. He's got fourth place. Casemiro on 29 points. So clear in fourth place on 29 points. Casemiro, wow. It's just, obviously we knew he was a good player. You just have to look at his record, and he was starting for Real Madrid week in, week out for many a season. So obviously Casemiro is a brilliant player. Like Robin Van Persie, when Robin Van Persie signed for Manchester United, I thought, yeah, okay, good player. We've got a good striker. But Arsene Wenger made the quote or alluded to Sir Alex Ferguson. Okay, you signed a good player, but you don't realise how good this guy is. Wait till you work with him, you realise how good he is. And Sir Alex sort of did find that out. With Casemiro, I didn't realise how good he was until I was watching him every week. Because if I watch him also once or twice a month in the Champions League, it's not like watching him and analysing him every single week. There was a time this season I was calling the best midfielder in the world and not the best defensive midfielder. Forget this discussion with Rodri and Partey in terms of the defensive duties. I don't see Casemiro as that at all. I just see him as a central midfielder. Now, obviously, he does pick up a lot of sort of defensive positions, and a lot of his standout sort of highlight reel moments are defensive actions, of course. How many times does he burst into the box? That bicycle in spine against Bournemouth, the goal in the cup final. In terms of, he does step up with big moments and big goals, and I just think as an old-fashioned central midfielder, you'd love to see him in an old-fashioned 4-4-2, like play him in there with Roy Keane in like the mid-90s. Like, it would be an absolutely unbelievable midfield pairing, and I just think, for me, Casemiro, his introduction into this team on and off the pitch has been absolutely brilliant. And as I said, in regards to the contribution of this season in terms of a holistic thing, I think he maybe should have been a little bit higher. I think he has been brilliant, but in regards to that, you can also throw a negative in there and say, well, he's missed half of it through suspension. That's through his own doing. Now, some of the red cards, some of the suspensions were extremely soft, and he shouldn't have been suspended, but they were in his hands, quite literally, when he had that guy by the scruff of the neck. So Casemiro may be a little bit let down by missing those games through suspension, but yeah, definitely glad that he is a Manchester United player now. Chris making the point as well. Also, we played 62 games. Yeah, crazy. I think Liverpool last season played potentially the most possible in regards to they got to all the finals and obviously the Premier League games. So I'm not sure what that equated to, because obviously we got knocked out earlier in the Europa League. But yeah, hopefully the players can put their feet up for a couple of weeks and rest up. But Rashford, Bruno, and Licha must be top three in regards to process of elimination. Rob suggests you are right, but quite interesting in regards to 2 and 3. It is tied. Bruno Fernandes and Lisandro Martinez both on 35 points each. Can't split them. Who would you split if you had to have one over the other? They are both on 35 points here. For me, Bruno Fernandes, an underrated season in regards to our perception of Bruno Fernandes is so skewed by the media's, by statistics, by the media in terms of the way they treat him, by rival fans, by the way our own fans treat him in regards to the way they view his antics and the criticisms of Bruno Fernandes. In regards to his output and his contribution, his numbers are just crazy. I just think in terms of, and I've been fairly critical, I believe, by my own standards, critical of Bruno Fernandes this season. But he can just point to his numbers and say, look what I'm giving to the team, and who am I to argue? Sort of thing. So Bruno Fernandes, I think in terms of, I think a lot of us would say has maybe, I wouldn't say been poor, but a lot of people would say maybe hasn't hit the heights of previous seasons. I think you'd look back at everything in regards to adding the weight of the captain's armband as well. I think Bruno Fernandes has been probably an underrated season. Now, I share a lot of the frustrations, of course, but all things considered, in terms of you look how the other captain has performed this season, Bruno Fernandes has done all right. So on Bruno Fernandes, nothing but credit to him. But Lisandro Martinez, wow, for me, was the player of the season for me in terms of the difference he made. I absolutely love the guy, which I'm sure a lot of you in the live chat obviously do as well. Here I am, the Argentina jacket. Absolutely love him. I think he's been absolutely brilliant on and off the pitch. He's been sort of, you'd say, translating a lot of what Erik ten Hag wants in terms of, especially playing out from the back, but in terms of that mentality on the pitch, I think that he's made that transition from Ajax and Erik ten Hag quite smoothly. And just in terms of what you want to see on the pitch, when things are, you forget the goals, forget the assists, forget the passes, you just want someone who fights on the pitch. And Lisandro Martinez gives that in every single game, whether it be a cup final away at Wembley against Newcastle, or at home in any other game, run-of-the-mill game against Bournemouth. Lisandro Martinez will put his body on the line and his head where it hurts. And that's all we ask in terms of these players. These players are better footballers than us. So when they make a mistake, we can't perform that skill any better. So who are we to criticise? The one thing we can do that these players can do is give their all and fight as hard as we can. Sometimes they don't do that. So that's where the criticism, I believe, is 100% valid. That's something we can never point at Lisandro Martinez. The effort and fight for Manchester United has been 100%. And I think that's why, sadly, why we love him so much, because sometimes we haven't had the love for these players because they haven't shown that. But Lisandro Martinez has. And just in regards to, forget just look at the football point of view, the quality and his contribution to Manchester United's back four. He's been brilliant in regards to, and maybe had potentially one or two challenges in terms of not being the tallest centre back and the media scrutiny. He had to deal with that, but he's come through with flying colours. And in my opinion, was the player of the season for Manchester United, but he didn't get that. First place obviously goes to the man who we haven't discussed yet, Marcus Rashford on 43 points, so wins quite comfortably. And in regards to the way we do these 3-2-1s, in regards to an impact on a match, you've got 30 goals. Probably no player who has had a bigger impact for Manchester United in regards to results than Marcus Rashford. So in regards to the way we do this award, I can't argue with it. In regards to he's deserving of this award. And when Erik ten Hag was announced, we always looked at these players in regards to, okay, who's Erik ten Hag going to like, who's he not going to like? I have to hold my hands up. I didn't think he would rate Marcus Rashford. I thought Marcus Rashford would really struggle. And even early on in the season, I think I was being proven right. I said, I don't see this working. A lot of us at the start of the season remember that miss against Newcastle when he took Ronaldo off, Rashford went through the middle, and we had that 0-0 draw off the back of that Marcus Rashford miss, I think. And that was when he was leaking stuff to the press and everything about moving away and not happy with being on the bench. And I just think it looked like it was over for Marcus Rashford. And something clicked. I don't know what it was clicked. It was because Ronaldo sort of threw his toys out of the Prem and Erik ten Hag gave more responsibility to Rashford. I'm not sure. But whatever happened, it clicked. And it clicked in a good way. And that's all we ask. The main difference in terms of what allowed Marcus Rashford to score these goals, in my opinion, was his attitude. He got his head down. We didn't hear anything from the dressing room. We didn't hear these leaks. We didn't hear contract talks. He got his head down and he was performing and he was running on the pitch. So often he doesn't sort of get through that effort, unfortunately. But he was getting through that effort and sort of putting the hard yards in and resulted in goals. And that form he was in there, that's easy. We're genuinely having discussions, was he the best player in the world in regards to his contribution and his impact on matches? And he probably was. I'm sure he won a couple of player of the months as well, a goal of the month. So he was absolutely on fire. He was unplayable. This photo in the new camp, I think that was in and around the time he was really on fire against Barcelona. Nothing but credit to Marcus Rashford, because as I said, I thought his career was almost done at Old Trafford. And I wouldn't have lost any sleep if we did sell him to PSG. I also would have hated that in regards to, I do love Marcus Rashford, but in regards to how it was going football-wise, it just wasn't working. For him to turn it around and Erik ten Hag to get a tune out of him, absolutely brilliant. Because if there are some type of players you do want to get a tune out of, it is your young local players. This Marcus Rashford isn't a Jadon Sancho who you do see in the background who cost 70 million. Marcus Rashford is one of our own, and you do want to see these players perform and sort of come through and make a name for themselves at Manchester United. So it would have hurt seeing Marcus Rashford leave. But when you do see them take the step in the positive direction, you can only enjoy it. So have enjoyed Marcus Rashford's turnaround. As I said, in regards to Lisandro Martinez, for me, was the player of the season. But in regards to the way we do these awards and in terms of impact on games, which is ultimately what it comes down to, that's what we're here for, winning football matches. No one's done that better than this season than Marcus Rashford, and that is why we do these 3-2-1s in the way we do. So our most important player this season has been Marcus Rashford. Let us know if you agree. Leave a like on the video if you do agree. That'll be very much appreciated. Or in the comments, do let us know your thoughts. Do you disagree? Who would you have gone? How would you value the 3-2-1s, etc.? Always an interesting shout. But Chris, Marcus Rashford, good to see. Some support for Rashi. Great goal scoring record, although since February has been patchy. That's where I look at, over the course of a season, maybe not my player of the season. And it was a crazy stat that he scored 2 goals in 3 months after that patch, which is, and again, as we alluded to in one of the last podcasts, there was an international break, there was FA Cups, etc. But it was an extreme purple patch, I would say, but a purple patch that has got us top 4 and obviously scored in a cup final for us. I'm not sure if it went down as their own goal or not, but the cup final at Wembley against Newcastle, I'm pretty sure it got awarded to Marcus Rashford. But I think that was in the height of his good form, and that's something we can obviously all take to the bank as Manchester United fans, and he'll benefit from playing with a top centre forward. That's obviously my hope. I don't want to see him as centre forward next season. I do want to see him back on the left, and there's obviously rumours now that Manchester United is still in for a left winger. That'll be interesting. I think his best football does come off the left, even though he does have a great goal scoring record. I think he can perform better next season and score less goals and be more important to the team from the left than scoring 30 goals and sort of, in terms of, but that's a discussion for when Harry Kane or any other striker, maybe Harry Kane's off to Madrid. I don't think that'll happen, but obviously they do need a striker now. That Karim Benzema has gone, but we'll see Rashford and Bruno even better with Kane at centre forward. I do want it to be Kane. I do think it will be Kane. who knows? Maybe the Australian Ange Postecoglou, maybe we'll twist his arm and get another year out of him at White Hart Lane. I'm not sure. I don't think that'll be the case, but Harry Kane for me is the striker next season, whether it eventuates or not. Time will tell. Unfortunately, probably too much time. It is something we obviously want done in the next couple of weeks, so he's ready and firing on pre-season and gets used to Eric Ten Hag. If we are to sign Harry Kane, we do have to be honest with ourselves. It'll be August 31st. It'll be a deadline day signing, unfortunately. But look, Casemiro was close to a deadline, or Anthony was close to a deadline. You do sometimes these deals just unfortunately take that amount of time to get done. Fingers crossed, Manchester United can get some transfers done quickly and all on board for pre-season. I don't think that'll be the case. I do think this ownership issue will impact the transfer market. I do think we'll obviously get players in and we'll improve the squad. Will we improve the squad in the manner that it needs doing in regards to Anthony, Casemiro? All these players did improve the squad. They should have improved the squad 6 weeks earlier for less money. So, and I think that affects future business. So, interesting. But I do appreciate everyone's opinions in the live chat and keep me going. Obviously, I'm not sort of completely suited to doing these solo pods, but I just thought I wanted to get this out, not get it over and done with, but the season is over now. We have to forget about the football because, my God, I want to forget about the football in a few days' time. When Manchester City are playing the Champions League final, because there are more important discussions for Manchester United fans at the moment. Forget the football, forget the transfers. We still have a family in charge that need to move on for Manchester United to progress. And I think that is where a lot of the discussion, in my opinion, needs to be. So the football, it was fun this season. It was an emotional roller coaster at times, but it is over. Eric Ten Hag and Manchester United need to look to next season. So that is my look back at last season. I'm sure a lot of the discussions Larry and I will have in the next week or two will definitely look back, of course. But I just thought I'd get that out in terms of let everyone know who did win the 3-2-1s. But yeah, Boxy, maybe something we'll discuss on, as I said, in terms of the audio-only podcast. Maybe discussions like this in terms of, obviously, Manchester United-centric, but maybe sort of topics like that with Ange Postecoglou will pop up there on that podcast with bigger budget wage compared to Celtic. It's a job he can't turn down. Well, obviously he has taken it. Does seem like he has taken it. It's a job he can't turn down now. Do I think he'll get the sack in 2 years' time? Yes. And that's not to say he's not a great manager. I do think he's a great manager. I just think Spurs are Spurs. What are you going to do? Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho failed miserably there. I think Postecoglou will be very good for Spurs. As I said, though, Spurs are Spurs. I think it will fail. And I do like an Australian doing well, but I do hope he fails miserably as well, because if Tottenham do well, that's one more hurdle Manchester United have to go over. And I'd rather Manchester United have a clearer path to the top of the table as possible. And, yeah, sorry, Andrew, I do like you, but yeah, it's one of those. Chrissy, Tom and Larry and others, thanks for your time this season putting this on. Cheers, mate. Look, don't even say thanks. It's a pleasure doing this. As I said in the episode 300 we did the other day, it's not work. Get in here, sit for an hour a night or hour every couple of nights and talk Manchester United. It's the last thing from work. It is an absolute pleasure. And as I said, if you aren't subscribed in your podcast app, there is a link in the description below to all your podcast apps. But you can also just search the United PubCast every Tuesday morning, not tomorrow, starting from next week. Every Tuesday morning, an exclusive audio-only podcast will be in your podcast app. Looking at, again, not the reviews or match reviews or transfers, and a little bit more of a random topic, looking at a player's career or something to do with fans, etc., someone's story. That'll go into your podcast app every Tuesday. So if you aren't subscribed on that, please do. And you can use that in sort of when you go for your morning walk or you drive to work, etc. Something for you to do there. Hopefully you can find that enjoyable. But hopefully everyone did enjoy that. As I said, do appreciate all the interaction. And hopefully you do agree, or even if you do disagree, let us know around those 3-2-1s and your thoughts on the season as a whole. But hit a like on your way out. If you are new, hit subscribe both on YouTube and your podcast app. And I think Larry and I will chat to you from the pub next. So stay tuned to that. Until then, have a good one and cheers.